So this morning during my bike ride I recorded a short video up here if you want to have a look, and I explained my thought process on how I go about thinking of thumbnails, strategies about my food and recipes. And I will be making a seafood parmigiana, and I introduced it earlier, and I'm going to now show you how I do it. So first things first, I'll remove the little head from a couple of medium-sized aubergines, and I'll show you the rest of the ingredients in a moment. I'm going to slice these approximately in half a centimeter, maybe 3/4 of a centimeter. I want to have a few slices, so I don't mind going a little bit thinner today. Also here in the UK, the size of aubergines are pathetic. Where I come from in Sicily, I think a normal size aubergine is twice the size of one of these, so that's why I'm being a little bit mean as well.
You haven't seen that poor little thing in my greenhouse. It's pathetic. That is pathetic.
However, although I am cutting them nice and thin, ensure they're not too thin. You want to find the aubergines once they're cooked. So I've laid them on a tray, on an oven tray with some baking pepper underneath, and I'm going to be sprinkling a tiny little amount of salt, just enough for them to sweat a little water, followed by a little sprinkle of olive oil.
That was quite a small one for you.
It is small, yes, a little sprinkle is small. And they're ready to go in the oven for 20 minutes, 180 degrees. And I will now introduce you to the other ingredients. So this is all frozen, and this is mixed seafood, so you've got some prawns, some, I think these are squids and mussels as well. Also I've got separate little pile of mussels. These are raw king prawns and a little piece of sea bass. If my mixed seafood and my mussels were fresh, I would have not used any sea bass, but because frozen fish is not as tasty, I'm adding a little sea bass to enhance the flavour. And that is the sort of thinking I do when I go on my bike ride.
It's a magic bike ride.
Half a litre of passata. These are a few tomatoes from Julie's garden, the first that we've picked this morning.
Hooray! They've actually ripened or turned red eventually.
Handful of basil, couple of cloves of garlic, and parsley and oregano, and here I have got also 150 grams of breadcrumbs. Olive oil, garlic, gentle crush, leave the skin on if you like, add them in, and also add the parsley next. The only fish I'm going to be cutting is the sea bass, because everything else is fine as it is, so I'm just chopping it into little strips first and then into cubes.
Am I right in saying you could have used, I don't know, a little bit of plaice or haddock or
Yeah,
anything else?
you can use any fish, just to give a oomph, that's a good word. I've turned the hob on high, but I wanted to show you something first. I have defrosted all of my fish on this plate, and see there is quite a lot of water there. Do not throw that away, because it's got lots of flavors. And what I'll do, as soon as this gets nice and hot, I'll add the sea bass first. I'll turn the temperature down and gentle mix, and I'm going to add only the mixed fish, not the mussels or the prawns, including the water I was referring to. Now they just come down, I've turned the temperature up again on maximum, now waiting for it to reach the boil. And I will add half a litre of tomato. Passata. As soon as the sauce starts boiling, I'll turn it down onto a medium heat, number 5 in my case. I'll add a little salt and some pepper. And I will leave it to simmer on a medium heat without the lid on for 20 minutes. I've now moved on to my prawns. These are king prawns, and I am removing the shell. Is that what it's called, the shell, the outer skin? And because they've been defrosted, it's considerably easier to do. And if you look, actually, I'll show you with one. I'll just get hold of the tail, push it with my thumb, and it comes off ever so easily. I'll do it one more time in case we're not paying attention, Julie. There.
Sometimes you can buy them and they're actually pre-shelled, aren't they?
They are, yes. And now I'm using a bread knife, and strictly speaking, no ideal, but I don't want to mess anything else up, and I started with a bread knife because of the aubergines.
Because it takes so long to wash a knife up, doesn't it?
I know,
it's
I'm a bit lazy.
So laborious, yeah. I can see why you'd need to save time and effort. Good Lord.
Indeed. So I'm going along and cutting them halfway in like this. So not a lot to do. Round the back, yes. Not a lot to do, so this won't take you long. And actually, although Julie's been sarcastic,
No.
using a bread knife is easier, much easier. And I'm now going along and doing a very similar job with my mussels as well, so I'm chopping them in half. Turns for the breadcrumbs next. I'll put them inside a little food processor. I add my basil.
Why did the basil?
Sorry?
It sounded like from Fawlty Towers basil.
Okay. In goes the basil and some oregano. A little bit more maybe.
Yeah, it did seem a little bit tight for you. You normally like a lot of oregano.
And I'll give everything a good mix. Not very happy, I think I need more basil, so I'm going to add some again. So, just been in the garden and Julie's picked me some more, and I'm adding the same quantity again. So this is a very full handful of basil. That's better, I'm a happy boy now. I think that'll do nicely. And the aubergines are done. If you look, they are lovely and brown on the top, and they are not totally cooked, but just as I want them. And the sauce is also done, has been doing its thing for 20 minutes, and I'm very happy that it is the consistency that I need, and I'm ready to start putting it together. So for the base, I'll try and just add some sauce, nothing else, so that the aubergines will have a good base underneath. Treat this a little bit as if you were making a lasagna, I suppose. Instead of using pasta, you're using now the aubergines, and I'm going to be covering the base with a few slices. And now I'm going to be putting anything that I can find. These mussels, by the way, they are cooked, but they are going to be adding a different flavor because they didn't cook with the tomato, so they'll be a little bit more fishy. Whereas the prawns are raw, but they will cook in the oven, they don't take long, and I also chop them in half, so I'm adding them in as well now. And breadcrumbs, basil and oregano next, so I'm going to be sprinkling that on top. And more aubergines, and I'll carry on until I run out of ingredients, following the same process. And I've just reached the very last layer. I've done 3 layers of aubergines, and that is where I'm going to be adding the remaining of my sauce, which is perfect because you always need more at the top, just like lasagna. While we were offline, Julie and I had a board meeting and we decided actually a mozzarella would go very nice on top. So I'm now slicing 1 fresh mozzarella and put it on top. By the way, I think I made far too much breadcrumbs, so I will adjust the quantities in the description of the recipe, but I will put this in the fridge or in the freezer, and it will not go waste, trust me. A little layer of breadcrumbs on top. And as I've got mozzarella, I will be strategically positioning some of Julie's fresh tomatoes on top of each piece of mozzarella.
I might just put a little strategic bit there, look.
And before I put it in the oven, 1 last drizzle of olive oil. 180 degrees, 25 minutes.
Pick it.
And here it is, straight out of the oven, still piping hot.
Look at that bubbling.
I'm going to be putting a little bit more fresh basil to garnish on the very top. And 1 very last drizzle of olive oil, just a little. And the next part, believe it or not, is the most difficult part of when I do videos. Leaving it to rest for 10 minutes because Julie wants to eat it straight away. And literally every other minute she'll say to me, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Like when children are in the back of the car, are we there yet? So I'll leave it for 10 minutes, Julie, okay? And then we can cut it. And we're ready, 10 minutes is up. By the way, if you like aubergines and you like fish, clearly you're gonna love this. If you're not sure about aubergines, you're not sure about fish, you're gonna love this. If you don't like aubergines, you don't like fish, don't bother. But there is a ton of videos in my channel that you can take a look at, Sicilian, Italian food. I'm sure you'll find something. I'll just have a quick taste with a knife, but it looks like it's okay. That's the benefit of leaving it to rest for 10 minutes, Julie.
Well, that and we won't burn our tongues. there is that as well.
Julie keep thinking this is a lasagna, and I have to remind her it's not a lasagna, it's a parmigiana. And I'm now going along with a steak knife to cut it into 4 pieces. I thought it was going to be firmer than this, but if you wanted to have it a little bit more firmer, leave it for another 10 minutes. I don't think it's worthwhile me even going there if I want to stay alive. I don't think Julie will let me.
I haven't got time for that.
It's a bit more liquidy than I thought, but it's come apart, but that's okay. Lesson learned. I think I'll have to add more breadcrumbs in future, but that looks okay though. It might not be as elegant looking as I wanted it to be, but my God, assolutamente deliziosa. Arrivederci e grazie. Ciao.